Hello and welcome to another video, and today I'm going to explain how you can fix this, and this. That wasn't supposed to be in there. So sit back, relax, give the video a like, and let's get into it. Okay, we're in. So uneven muscles or muscle imbalances. Now the first thing to say here is that there are two types of muscle imbalance. The first one is the fixable type and the second one is the non-fixable type. And what you have to establish first is which type you have, because obviously if you have a non-fixable problem, you can't fix it. Awkward! Now when I say non-fixable, I'm talking about things that you were born with, things that are hereditary. So for example, the classic one would be your abs, right? If your muscles are different shapes because they insert in different places, I'm afraid there's not much you can do about that short of like surgical intervention. But if you have the classic muscle imbalance whereby one of your muscles is bigger than the other, so for example, your right biceps bigger than your left one, or your left quad's bigger than your right one, that is definitely fixable, and today I'm going to give you my 5 top tips to rectify this. So I'm outside the gym now, about to go and do a push workout, and I figured I'd talk you through the tips as I train, because I feel like it's more interesting than me just sat in a chair talking to you, right? Okay, tip number 1 for fixing muscle imbalances is to identify the cause. Now this sounds so simple, but loads of people bypass this stage, right? So the classic response is that someone will be like, right, my right bicep is bigger than my left one, so I'm just going to do friggin' loads of extra curls on my left bicep. Now the problem there is that all you're doing is masking the problem, you know? It would be like if a cat died in your wardrobe, right, and you just sprayed it with loads of Febreze, like, it might smell nice, but you still have a dead cat in your wardrobe. So what you need to do is find the underlying cause, find the problem, what is causing the imbalance, and address it. So what I suggest is train in front of a mirror, or get someone to film you, or even better, get someone to watch you firsthand and tell you what your lifts are looking like. And you'll probably find that somewhere linked to that muscle group there is an exercise that you're doing wrong. So if I use myself as an example, I found a long time ago that the left side of my chest was slightly bigger than the right side. I didn't really know why. Then I started filming myself, I looked at my bench press and I found out that where I'd injured my right shoulder a few years ago, it was doing this. I was benching with my right shoulder out in front, and what that meant is that my front delt was getting more involved on the right side than it was on the left side, and therefore the right side of my chest wasn't doing as much work as the left side. So then what I simply did was to implement a plan to level it out. I started retracting my scapula, getting really mindful of keeping the bar level, filming all my lifts and making sure it was bang on every single time. And now, although it isn't perfect, it's a lot better than it was, and it will eventually be rectified. Tip number 2 is to minimize your use of machine weights. Right? I'm not saying never use them, they definitely have a place in the training program. I actually use them all the time. But if you have a muscular imbalance, they're only going to exacerbate that problem. So for example, let's look at your quads. Let's say your right quad is significantly bigger than your left quad. If you do loads of machine leg press and machine leg extensions, all you're going to do is make that problem worse. Your right quad's going to get bigger and stronger, and that strength imbalance is going to get even more significant. And the reason for that is that the resistance on that machine is fixed. There's no real need for any kind of stabilization, and therefore when you get fatigued, the more dominant muscle's going to take over and do more of the work. Think about it this way, right? Imagine you're driving your car breaks down. There's a petrol station like 200 meters away, you need to push to get there. And then suddenly out of the distance, 2 people turn up. You've got Arnold Schwarzenegger and you've got like Barbara Streisand. Firstly, that's pretty weird. Secondly, they both get on the car and they both start pushing. Now, just because they're both pushing, just because they're both doing the same thing, it doesn't mean they're both exerting the same amount of force. So what I'd recommend in this instance, not the car instance, in that instance just sit in the car, sit back and enjoy being pushed by 2 legends. I mean like in the quad instance, what I'd recommend is doing some like barbell squats, or even better, doing some dumbbell lunges or dumbbell single leg squats, because what that's going to do, it's going to allow you to do 2 things. Firstly, it's going to allow you to moderate your volume. So basically make sure you're doing exactly the same amount of work on both sides. And secondly, it's going to give you the chance to contract and recruit muscle fibers from that weaker side. So you get used to the feeling of engaging that weaker side, and then you can then transfer that over into all of your other work, and then eventually rectify that imbalance. Right, that's the shoulder portion of the workout done. And before I move on to a bit of chest, I'm going to give you tip number 3 to fix your muscle imbalances, and that is to develop a better mind-muscle connection. Now, a lot of people talk about mind-muscle connection as if it's some kind of like voodoo, witchcraft type thing, like, you want to get bigger biceps? Right, strip naked and sing to your cat whilst gargling lemon juice. Now, that just isn't the case. It is a very real, palpable thing, and it basically involves the skill of being able to engage, properly recruit the muscle fibers in a particular muscle. Now, I think the reason a lot of people struggle with this is that it is partly psychological, and it basically involves lots and lots of practice, and it's pretty boring and pretty weird because it can entail like sitting in your bedroom just contracting your muscles. So your pecs are a classic example. It's really easy to go and do loads and loads of bench press but not properly engage your chest. So what I would recommend is, like I said, it sounds weird, but sit in your bedroom and practice contracting your pecs. Look in the mirror and make sure you can properly contract them and properly get used to the feel of the squeeze and the contraction and the engagement within those muscle groups. Now, the reason this can lead to muscle imbalances is that you can be better at contracting one side of your body than the other. Now, sometimes this stems from like you being right or left-handed, but it's a really easy thing to rectify. It just involves practice. So like I said, go back to your bedroom like a weird little creep, light some candles, look in the mirror and practice engaging both sides of your chest or both biceps or whatever muscle group you have the imbalance in, and keep doing it until you're able to contract them the same on both sides. And as soon as you've experienced what that feels like and what it feels like to properly engage and recruit the muscle fibers in that weaker side, you will start to rectify that imbalance. Right, that is chest done. I know what you're thinking, I've done a lot more shoulders than chest. That's because today is a shoulder focused push workout, so don't worry, it's part of the plan. Tip number 4 is to focus on form before weight. Now, this is an important tip just for anyone, but particularly when you have a muscle imbalance, it's really, really important that you get your technique absolutely spot on before you try and go heavy. And the reason for that is that if you have a strength imbalance, as soon as you go heavy, the stronger side is going to take over, it's going to dominate, you're going to go back to what you know, and that's what caused the problem in the first place, right? So, swallow your pride, drop the weight right down. Like I said at the start, get someone to watch or to film or get it in a mirror, and make sure your form is absolutely perfect. Make sure both sides are engaging equally, and then you can start to increase the weight and get stronger. Right, let's do some triceps, then we're done. Training is done, but before I go home and eat, I'm going to give you my 5th and final tip, and that is to focus on your posture and habits outside of the gym. So what I mean by this is little things, little nuances, stuff you do outside the gym that you wouldn't even think of, stuff that everyone does. A classic example, right, is standing and putting all your weight on one hip. Right, you do that for like half an hour every day for the 10 years, that's a friggin' load of time. Another good one is carrying your bag. You have like a shoulder bag, you carry it on one shoulder, you always use the same shoulder every day. Again, over time that adds up, and it leads to imbalances. So for example, if we look at that hip thing, which is very common for the general population, if you stand like this for like an hour or so a day for a period of years, what's going to happen is that one side of your back, one side of your spinal erectors is going to get tighter and stronger. Now if you go into the gym and you squat and you deadlift with that, what's going to happen is that stronger, tighter side is going to dominate, it's going to take over, it's going to do more of the work, and the problem, the imbalance, is going to get exacerbated. So what you've got to do is have a look at yourself, try and identify those weird things that you do and just try and balance them out as much as you can. Obviously in some cases, stuff like changing gear with your left hand or using a mouse with your right hand is going to be hard to balance out, but a lot of things like carrying a bag on one shoulder or, like I said, leaning on one hip can easily be leveled out over time. And that's going to be a far more effective way of rectifying that problem than just doing more work on the other side to try and level it out, because the underlying cause is still going to be there. And that is pretty much that, guys. I'm going to wind the video up there because I think I've kind of covered most bases. I hope you found it informative and useful. Maybe you yourself haven't got any imbalances, but maybe you know someone who has. I feel like it's a pretty common problem, so feel free to go and share it with someone. Maybe do it like sneakily, because I think if you go up to someone and say, look, I've got a video to fix your crappy form, it's going to be quite offensive. In the same way that, like, if you buy your girlfriend like low calorie snacks for her birthday, she's going to be like, oh thanks. Hang on a minute. But yeah, I'm done. So I hope you enjoyed it, guys. If you did enjoy it, please give it a thumbs up, and I will see you tomorrow.